Okay, so now we're with Remy and context. So this is an important topic. So Remy's an Australian Terrier, and what I know about Australian Terriers is I've never met one that is not a natural leave out of stride dog, meaning when they encounter awkward spacing in anything in life, they will launch versus chip in a stride. And when you have a dog that does that, that you need to train them to do collection strides for jumping, and you need to train a specific performance on the contacts, or they will leap. And where they want to leap off from the A-frame is just above that yellow contact zone. And I don't know if there's a visual, like it'd be really interesting to put train a dog to do the contacts without any line or any barrier to see where they actually leave from. I think in some ways that yellow, that the distinct line actually creates a desire to leap before hitting it. And I guess you could do that with Natick A-frames if they just have white tape that marks it, they're black. Yeah, if I had access to one today, I would take the white line off and just see where dogs naturally land without giving them any visual about it. So I watched your videos, Alice, and the thing that struck me is I feel like it's somewhere in between going with the momentum of gravity and speed and holding back. And the A-frame performance doesn't look that different than what he was doing before. So, short stride, then leap off. Here's what I would do with him on the A-frame. I would remove that mark bucket before, and if you can put a mat there, if he tends to splat on the A-frame, on the mounting of it, you can train, put a mat there where he's got to target the mat to give him a little bit of collection. But I'd remove that mark bucket because what you want to do is start increasing the speed. And then you're going to see him coming down whether or not he is doing kind of a modified version of what he did before, which may actually be good enough. But you're going to have to see that. So you're going to remove that first mark bucket. And the second mark bucket needs to be further away. Because what I saw is that he's not even sticking the landing on the mark bucket. So the purpose of the mark bucket is to get the dog thinking about collecting. And that gets their rears, like the weight shift back. But if the dog is not sticking the landing on the mark bucket, that means they're not thinking about collecting. So you're not getting the benefit of the mark. So I would move that mark bucket, and it's going to be hard for me to say a distance without then seeing it. So it looks like it's about 5 feet now. Alice, in comment if that's not accurate. I'd try putting it at about 8 feet and see how he goes down. And I don't know what word you're using for your contacts. I think I heard you say mark on the dog walk. So I wouldn't say mark unless I want my dog to pause. Unless you're saying mark because you're saying go to the mark bucket and you're not saying anything besides whatever you're saying for the A-frame dog walk. So also let me know if I'm going to see if your comments come up. Let me know if you say dog walk A-frame and you expect that to be the only thing, or what mark means. So with the A-frame, adding speed coming, up to it, so doing a wrap and then good speed into it. And when he's over the apex is when I give my cue, which for me is mark. And what mark means for my dogs is, that pausing for on. Because when Lil was early on doing running contacts for years and years and was very successful, I must have just said what came next, like go on. But when I trained the 4 on, it's just an experiment because I love training. And okay, so you're saying it's about 5 feet now. Okay, that's okay. So I was accurate with that. So you want it far enough away that I would try 8 feet. And what you want to see is he shuffling lower and pushing straight off from the A-frame, or is he leaping down? Because what you're gonna have to give me videos. Because if we were in person, we'd be working this out rep by rep by rep by moving things. But if his A-frame looks good as the mark goes 8 feet away, then I want you to put a jump. Where is it going to be? Somewhere around, let's just say 8 feet, and I might need to be a little bit closer. Try 8 feet, because I don't want it so close that he hits the ground, then tries to jump over the jump. I want him to hit the ground, take a stride, and jump the jump. So whatever, I think 8 feet will be about right. So hit the ground, one stride, then jump. Then put the mark bucket 15 feet or so past that. So now what you've done is that you still have the dog going to the mark. So whenever you would, when he's, whatever you say for the A-frame, I don't know if you're giving a performance, how to do the end part word. But you could say go on mark. And that, because he knows where he's going, that will show you what he knows about the A-frame performance. But something you mentioned in one of your posts is that you are kind of psychically connected, like hoping, kind of mind melding, trying to help and all that stuff. You're going to have to find a way to release yourself from that, because that influences the dog's performance. So you really need to know, what does the dog know? That is the only thing you need to know. And once you know what they know and what they're able to do, then you can change it. But if you keep interfering with that by trying to help, now you don't know what the dog knows. And the helping usually isn't helpful. I mean, the one thing that is helpful, I think, for dogs that tend to leap is, to not be running way ahead of the A-frame. That seems to make some dogs leap. But that only suggests that it's not an independent performance. So I think I've discussed like the A-frame thing. And, make sure that you are not part of the picture, right? You want him to go on and go to that mark. And if he's not driving down the A-frame and going to the mark, if he's kind of popping and looking at you, then you have to, separate from the A-frame, train that independence of look for the thing I'm telling you versus look to me. Because if he's looking to you, that means he's not engaged in the performance, that he's looking to you. And that's going to change what he does. So again, it goes back to, you're going to have to find a way to release yourself. So let's move on to the dog walk. I didn't think you were doing a running dog walk, but looking at those videos, it looks like you are doing a running dog walk, because you're saying mark, and he is kind of doing a leapy thing off the dog walk to the mark bucket. This is just my opinion, but if you're going to train a leave out of stride dog to do a running dog walk, you have to train the wazoo out of it, and they need to intentionally add a stride. And those videos I shared with you a long time ago about Lil doing it, you could see exactly that, right? That she is adding that stride. She is collecting, and her rear feet are overlapping her front feet, and she's really putting in an intentional stride. So if that is not something you want to do, I mean, that's flat work on mats and training all the go-ons and the target right, target left, all of that really, really important training away from the context. If you don't want to do that, then I think you need to go to a stopped dog walk. And it can be 4 on, or it can be 2 on, 2 off, whatever it is, because the dog walk angle is not so severe that it's hard for dogs to do. So either one, you'd have to pick one. But in that case, you'd put that mark bucket right at the end of the dog walk. And, so you'd be like, over that second apex, you'd say mark. And he would run down and put his front feet on the mark bucket. Rear feet should stay on that plank. And if those rear feet pop off so that he's facing you, then that's going to tell you 2 things. One is he doesn't have an independence performance, but it could also just mean he doesn't know how to stop on an angle down. And that cartwheel action is a way of not collecting. So in having worked with 17 dogs recently in my foundations class in beginning agility, the dogs that don't know how to stop straight on a mark bucket were the ones that were pivoting off to face the handler on the dog walk plank. So those are completely connected. And again, that's something you can train away from real contacts. So like putting a narrow board, couple inches, wider than your dog's stance, putting it in a mark bucket and sending him to go mark, and making sure those rear feet stay on, so that the only way the dog can stop once you add speed is they have to weight shift back. But if they can pivot to face you, that cartwheel is it replaces the collection. So Alice, if you want to share, if you have shifted your plan and want to do running dog walk, because I have the way I trained Lil was Dawn Weaver's method, and it was brilliant. It worked so well, and Australian Terriers are so biddable to do the thing we train them to do. It is doable, but it takes a ton of training, and then to transfer that mat work onto the dog walk with full independence, it was, a big fun project, but really, really big project. So it's not for everyone. And it's kind of like the loose leash walking. That's not for everyone either. It's that same kind of it's a big undertaking to get the dogs to understand this thing and then to be able to do it. So I'm going to see if maybe you're commenting on this other screen, because I don't see your comments coming up. Can somebody just comment and just so I see if maybe my comments are frozen? Oh, here we go. Okay, sorry. I will send videos. I say click it, mark. So what does click? Click it means hit the mat on the A-frame. So okay, so you've got a clicker. If you've got a clicker mat, then definitely you should be full, like let him do his thing. Don't interfere, don't try to mind meld with him, and see what you've got there, and let him show you how he does that, how he meets the challenge of the A-frame. And I'm looking at your dog walk there. I think you have the same mat there. So Alice, you're saying a jump instead of the mark bucket. Got it. Yeah, so basically what you're doing is you're layering, right? You're adding the jump in front of the mark. So first he's driving to the mark, so you're moving that mark a little bit further. Then you're moving putting a jump there and a mark. So basically you're saying, can you do this while I tell you go on, while you're looking at what's next? Can you do it? Because that's different than looking down at the mark that's right there, right? The dog, and that's more realistic, that the dog has to look for the next thing. So if he is successful driving over the A-frame, targeting that mat, going on over a jump that's 8 feet away to a mark bucket that's 3 strides away, now you start moving that whole thing out. So you go from 8 feet to 10 feet till finally you are obstacle spacing at like 18 to 20 feet. And if he can do the A-frame and go on and hit that jump and then go on to hit the mark, now you know he can do it in the context of a course, which will help you release yourself from wanting to help him. I'm pretty sure you need to move to California. I am in California. Anyway, are you in California? I thought you were somewhere like in the middle of, I don't know where I thought you lived, but not here. Oh, you need to. Yes. Where do you live, by the way? Okay, so now you're saying, okay, you were trying for running dog walk. So you just need to know if you want to like take a long break from trialing and really do this thing. I mean, it is not for everyone. I trained the whole thing on a 12-foot ramp that I left with Heather Harris. She's got it now and working her dogs. I trained it all off the back porch of my Woodstock cabin, and I moved it to different porches, and I ran, down on the ground with Lil running, circle up one stairs across the porch and down the ramp and rights and lefts and all that stuff. And it translated perfectly to the dog walk. So you don't actually need even to work the whole dog walk. It's just that 12-foot. What they need to learn is the apex, right? That second apex, go over that and do a certain thing down. And again, with these leave out of stride dogs, they need to learn something intentional. And, on a little side note, that it appears there's like a new way of training the highly competitive border collies. They're now asking for that stride over the second apex, one stride that hits mid dog walk descent ramp, and then the second one hits in the contact zone. They're not asking for the two types of performance anymore, where the other one is collection that helps a dog turn tightly. They're just training the dog to sustain that full extension and then to scramble if the next thing is not in extension. And Jessica Aju is like a really amazing competitor that she did that. God, I think it like a big AKC event and won because her dog was able to, she was cueing the dog throttle arm while it was doing that running. So the dog knew that performance. It was a trained pattern performance, and the dog also could understand what to do next, and that was to not take the tunnel that it was staring down, but to take the offside tunnel entrance. So that is its own thing. But I guess the way it relates to the little guys is it's one thing that dog is doing every time. So they're doing 2 strides down. With these little guys, that Lil did a specific number of strides down every time. And if she didn't, so once we were working on that dog walk ramp, that 12-foot ramp, that I stopped, jackpotting the 4 stride hits and what I call 5 strides, and it's not really 5 strides, but whatever it was, when she would leave one out, even though she was hitting that low spot, I stopped rewarding it once we were in the training far enough where I could shape what I really wanted, which I thought she needed, and I think she did because she was super, super consistent and confident about it, that she needed to learn to add that extra stride. And I think a lot of people will go, oh, that's the opposite. You want to, you don't want that. You want to get extension. The upside of training something very, very intentional is that the dog is thinking about doing the thing, and you can mark that. So you're marking thinking, and you're marking like a skill. It's kind of like 2 on 2 off. The dog is doing a thing that's not natural. By going with the kind of the leapy thing, now what you're marking is lower hits, which you don't know if the dog is understanding why he got jackpotted for that lower hit, because you know what I mean? So I think you do know what I mean. So there's one is saying, hey dog, I know what you're thinking, and I'm going to reward this thought to add a stride. And I think that is what made Lil so really consistent and confident with her running dog walk. So Alice, you think about, if you want to take a break from trialing, and if you want to, do the mental work yourself to get yourself completely released from whether or not your dog's going to do it, and to just see what your dog knows, because that is going to be a big part of your success in training and trialing, is that you really do need to trust the dog, trust the training. Otherwise, then you start decelerating, which then causes the dog to pull up, and now they're no longer thinking about what they're doing, they're thinking about what you're doing, and that screws things up. So it will be, a mental challenge for you, and see if you're up for it. I love to train, so I trained it because I wanted to see what it was like, and I didn't like the 2 on 2 off for Lil, and that's before I considered a 4 on, because everybody was going, oh, 4 on so vague, where's the dog going to do it, blah, 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 blah. But then, later on I realized that, oh, they can figure out like near the bottom. So anyway, let me see if I touched on everything. The jump, that A-frame, you're going to have to videotape every rep with, with you without the mind meld thing happening, and post videos. So I do need to see it to be able to give you advice about it, because my slight concern with what he's doing is it's kind of what he was doing before your training. So collection strides at the top and then leaping off at the bottom. So do get back to me on that.